You're standing in the woods and 30 feet away, there's a wolf. It's not running. It's not crouching. It's not making a sound. It's just standing there, watching you, completely still, like it's waiting for something. And here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. It's not deciding whether to attack. It's running a test. And you have absolutely no idea what the test even is. Here's the thing most people get wrong about a moment like this. You're standing there thinking about the obvious stuff. How big is it? How fast can it move? Could I outrun it? Could I fight it? That's the human brain doing what human brains do, running the math on strength and speed. But the wolf isn't doing any of that math at all. It's doing something stranger, older, and honestly a little more terrifying if you actually understand what it is. Every predator on this planet operates with something like an internal library. Millions of years of evolution have built a catalog inside that animal's brain, a set of patterns for exactly what its prey looks like, sounds like, moves like. A wolf's brain knows an elk instinctively. It knows the exact way an elk's muscles twitch right before it bolts. It knows how a deer's ears rotate when it senses danger. That knowledge isn't learned in one lifetime. It's inherited, coded in over generations, refined by every ancestor who guessed wrong and didn't survive to guess again. And then you show up, and you don't match anything in that library. Not even close. You walk upright, which almost nothing in the forest does. Your face sits on the front of your skull like a predator's, not on the sides like prey. You don't have fur in any meaningful sense. You don't smell like anything the wolf has ever hunted successfully. You don't bolt like a deer. You don't freeze like a rabbit. You don't square up and fight like a bear. Whatever you're about to do next simply isn't written down anywhere in that animal's inherited playbook. So the test begins. And the test isn't, can I beat this thing? The test is, can I even read this thing? The wolf edges closer, one slow step, watching how you react. Does it flinch? Does it run? Does it freeze? Does it make a sound it recognizes? It's not probing your strength. It's probing your category. Because until it knows what category you belong to, it genuinely does not know what happens next if it commits. And here's where it gets interesting, because we actually have real data on this, not just guesswork. Researchers running experiments with wild predators have found something that keeps surprising people. In a study with European badgers, scientists played recordings of different sounds near feeding areas: wolves howling, bears growling, dogs barking, and ordinary human voices. Every prediction going in said the badgers should panic hardest at the wolves and bears, the animals that have actually hunted them for millions of years. That's not what happened. The badgers barely reacted to wolves. They reacted a little to bears. And they lost their minds at the sound of human voices, by an enormous margin. The researchers had to change the language in the paper because predator didn't cover it anymore. They started calling humans something else entirely. A super predator. Not because we're the biggest thing in the woods. Because we're the one thing the animal's brain has absolutely no way to decode. That same pattern shows up again and again once you start looking for it. In California, researchers set up speakers across mountain terrain and played nothing but ordinary human conversation. No actual people anywhere nearby, just voices. Mountain lions, animals that regularly take down full-grown deer without much effort, abandoned kills they had already made. They walked away from meals they'd worked hard to catch, just because a voice was somewhere in the area. That's an animal deciding an unreadable signal is worse than a guaranteed meal. But it goes even deeper than, is a human nearby? These animals are actually reading you specifically, trying to figure out exactly what kind of human they're dealing with. In one study in the Ecuadorian rainforest, researchers sent 3 different people into wild monkey territory. One moved like a hunter, quiet, alert, scanning upward, carrying something shaped like a weapon. One moved like someone casually gathering things off the ground. One just stood still taking notes like a scientist. Same species of monkey, same patch of forest, and 3 completely different reactions. They fled hardest and hid longest from the hunter. They watched the gatherer from a cautious distance. They basically ignored the one standing still with a notebook. The monkeys weren't reacting to human present danger. They were reading behavior, decoding intent, running their own version of the exact test that wolf is running on you right now. So what is that test actually measuring? It's measuring whether you fit anything the animal's brain has a script for. And the less you fit, the more dangerous you become in its calculation, even though you're standing there unarmed, alone, and honestly a little terrified. And here's the part that reframes this whole thing. This unreadability isn't an accident of evolution. There's a real argument that it's the entire point of how we evolved to look and move. For most of the last 2 million years, our ancestors weren't dangerous animals in any conventional sense. Slower than almost everything hunting them. Weaker pound for pound than most of it. No claws, no fangs, nothing built for a fair fight. On paper, we should have been an easy extinction story. But somewhere in that window, we stood up and started walking on 2 legs full time. And one researcher has argued that standing upright wasn't just about freeing our hands or covering ground efficiently. It was what biologists call a dymatic display, a term for when a species evolves to look bigger, taller, and more visible than it needs to be purely to unsettle anything watching it. That display exists in nature for exactly one reason. It's a warning sign aimed at predators that says, I don't match anything you know, so don't test it. We didn't become the thing wolves test cautiously from 30 feet away because we got strong. We became that thing because we became unreadable. Every wolf, every mountain lion, every badger, every monkey that has looked at a human for the last 2 million years has been running a calculation we ourselves basically wired into their instincts, generation after generation, without ever knowing we were doing it. So back to that wolf, standing in the trees, 30 feet away, taking one slow step toward you. It's not deciding whether it can win. It's deciding whether it can even understand what it's looking at. And every second that passes without an answer, the calculation shifts further away from engaging and further toward retreat. You're not weak in that moment. You're not strong either. You're something else entirely. You're the shape standing upright in a world of things that move on 4 legs. You're the voice with no match in the library. You're the animal every predator on Earth has learned, generation after generation, to test very, very carefully and almost never actually approach.